Dan LeBatard.
Prepare to be astonished.
Stugotz.
The time has come to make a choice.
Here's Dan LeBatard and his houseboy, Stugotz.
A different aspect of their personalities, if you like. And they do have personalities.
Chidi Ahanatu, that's how we're fixing everything? The running back leaves in a haze of marijuana smoke. The re-retirement of Dan Marino. The offensive coordinator doesn't want to be the offensive coordinator. Any number of offensive linemen don't want to be here. Chidi Ahanatu's coming to fix everything, people. I am Dan LeBatard of the Miami Herald. We had how many months to prepare the name of the show? That's the best we could do creatively. I'm Dan LeBatard. This is the Dan LeBatard Show. This is what you're going to get over the next months, days, weeks, years, however long we do this. This is what this show will give you. Me, in all my bloated arrogance and pomposity and self-flagellation, polysyllabic flagellation. You're going to have direct access to me. You can spew your hatred, your outrage, your poison, if it makes you feel better, the way sobbing does. You don't like what I write this morning? I'm a few digits away. Tell me. 1-888-790-ESPN is the number. The reason people don't like me sometimes as a columnist is because they disagree with me and can't rebuttal. You hold the newspaper in your hand and you don't know exactly what to say. You have nothing to say because I've given you my opinion. What do you do with it? So here's your chance at rebuttal. They're giving it to you. 1-888-790-ESPN is the number. One of the other things you're going to get guests. 15 years of journalism, you develop relationships. So we'll have A-Rod, we'll have Pat Riley, we'll have Gary Sheffield on. And then we'll get to the second hour of that day's program. You're going to get authorities, Chris Mortensen, Peter Gammons, Mike Lupica, Bob Ryan, Tony Kornheiser, Dan Patrick, Mike Wilbon, Chris Fowler, Mitch Albom, Jay Billis, Stephen A. Smith, Greg Cote of the Miami Herald. They're my friends. They're going to be my friends on the program. They're going to be friends of the program, so they'll become your friends. We'll give you access to them. We'll elevate the discussion in sports hate radio. Hopefully, that's the ideal. That's what we're aspiring to here. You've got amazing resources here. 2 enormous news-gathering organizations at our disposal. The biggest one locally in the Miami Herald, and the biggest one in sports nationally in ESPN. You're going to have them at your disposal. You're going to be able to talk to them. Stugotz hopefully has already ironed out Chris Mortensen. We'll be able to talk to him on Fridays during the week before the football season, talk about your team. We're going to give you something different. I am not here to discuss what the Dolphins are going to do with the 4th spot on their practice squad. I'm not here to help you find a sleeper third-string tight end for your fantasy team. I'm not here to tell you about the strength and weaknesses of Valpo's backcourt. I am here to tell you that Edgerrin James, as a 10-year-old, would buy crack cocaine with the little money he has to crack addicts in Immokalee, because that's... I will tell you that Ray Lewis, the NFL, has children out of wedlock because much of the NFL is comprised of players who are children out of wedlock. I will tell you how Terrell Owens found out who his father was by having a crush on the girl across the street until her angry dad came over and said he couldn't have a crush on her because that girl was, in fact, his sister. And then we'll have Terrell Owens, Ray Lewis, and Edgerrin James on the show to talk about it. Maybe we'll get you to... I'm going to give you a little bit of fresher radio. Going to try. Enough of the tired, rehash, antiseptic, same sports talk radio complaining about Bud Selig and how T.O. needs to be a better role model. Better role model? Are you kidding me with this? Raise your own children. If your kid is looking anywhere beyond the dinner table for his role models, he's looking in the wrong place. Don't ask T.O.'s penmanship to be a referendum on how to raise your children. He's not urinating on an ideal. He's not trampling sportsmanship. Complaining about Terrell Owens and the way he plays a fun game. It's like going to the circus and complaining about the clowns. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to have fun. I do not need this job. I steal money for a living already. I'll say what I want. I'm going to mock my dorky self. I'm going to let you mock me, too. Experience? You're going to have experience on this show. If it's not me, we're going to go get it. But I know this market. I've been here 15 years. I know that they're cursed at running back. I know Bobby Humphries shot himself in the leg. I know David Overstreet died. I know Sammy Smith and Cecil Collins and Mercury Morris have all gone through jail. Miami's running game has been in jail. And the weirdest thing might have happened a couple of weeks ago when Ricky Williams retired. in a haze of marijuana smoke. I suspect you might want to talk about that a little bit on the program. My guess is that's probably going to come up at some point. 1-888-790-ESPN is the number. Again, I've been covering sports here since before we had pro football, baseball, hockey, before we had 2 World Series titles, before we had Shaq. I can go for, if you want to hear some really boring sports radio, I can go through that first Marlins team, the opening day lineup: Orestes Destrada, Brett Barbary, Walt Weiss, Dave Magadan, Charlie Huff, Benito Santiago, Conine, who was it? Chuck Carr and Junior Felix in the outfield, because I covered that team every day. So I've seen all of these teams grow up in basketball, in baseball, and hockey. Although I will admit to you in a moment of vulnerability that I don't know the color of a blue line. But let's not tell anybody that. You will hopefully, over the course of time here, you're going to see the curtain peel back a little bit on journalism. We'll laugh. I won't do this if I'm not laughing. I've purposely not even signed a contract yet because I want to make sure I'm laughing and enjoy this experience before signing off on it. Mock me. Go ahead. I don't take myself too seriously. It comes off that way sometimes in print, the bloated know-it-all. But you're going to get to know the real me here because conversation is more intimate than the printed word. So we'll talk about politics and parenting and religion, pop culture, my recent colonoscopy, and maybe some sports. Maybe we'll talk some of that. But you will laugh, too. I will promise. You will laugh with me. You will laugh at me. You will be surprised. You'll be enlightened, amused, agitated, angry, outraged, passionate. You'll laugh. You'll learn. You'll think. We're going to give voice to what it is that you finally hearing for the first time. You're going to say, wow, I've been thinking that all my life, and he's finally giving voice to it. And you're going to think that I'm so wrong that the only people that could possibly be more stupid or insane than I am are the people who gave me a microphone to do this and paid me. Unbelievable there, huh? So we're going to get to a lot of things over the course of the program. I suspect you want to talk about the Marlins and the Dolphins. Maybe Shaq. He looked pretty good. Looked sexy at the MTV Awards. Pat Riley says he wants him down in the 3 teens, 315 pounds. That would be making him a menace for the rest of this league. We're going to bring Stugotz here in a little while. He is going to be, as they say, my houseboy, my butler, my maid, my limo driver, my A.J. Cowlin. Actually, what he really is, the reason that he's here, the reason, and we'll be able to mock him about this in a little bit, but the reason that he's here is basically so that they can make money on this program because I'm not allowed to read advertisements. I can't do that. I can't sell my soul. I am no hoe. So I've rented one for the purposes of this program, and they will make him my sidekick. And, by the way, I understand that Joe Rose already started with this nonsense, and if he's going to start throwing Molotov cocktails, I'm going to burn down his entire empire. I love him. I've got deep, deep feelings for him, but that illiterate will not win a verbal war with me. I'm just telling you. Man has been making his life off Dan Marino. How are you going to criticize me for my friendship with Ricky Williams when you've made your entire career out of holding Dan Marino's hand 2 decades ago? And now your entire radio show is nothing but being Stugotz with a bigger head. All you're doing is selling commercials the whole time, and you don't even know which radio station you work for. All morning, all you're doing is giving the call letters to the wrong station. How hard is that? It's 4 letters. 4 letters, dude. And how dare you take a shot at my dating life when you've been married 17 times? Oh, my Lord. You're not going to win that, Joe. I'm going to tell you what I believe over the course of this program. You're going to hear it. It's going to be unfiltered. Like I said, we're going to have some of the biggest names in sports on this program. Later today, we're supposed to have Dan Patrick. Going to have Chris Mortensen. Going to have the guys from Pardon the Interruption, Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser on together. That should be fun. But mostly what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you over the course of time what it is that I believe. I believe, for example, that Ray Lewis has the best entrance in sports, running amid the Romans who shake their cash-filled fists at the spectacle with bloodlust. I believe Mike Holmgren. when covering his mouth with that play sheet, looks less like a genius and more like a fat guy reading a menu with every genius-diluting step he has taken away from Brett Favre. I believe Mike Martz looks like Mrs. Doubtfire. I believe the Dolphins will be 8-8. The Marlins will prove me wrong. And that Shaq is going to wreck the NBA this year. I believe the University of Miami has assembled the most overwhelming thing ever seen in the history of college football. I believe the only things that wouldn't be destroyed in a nuclear holocaust are Twinkies, cockroaches, Drew Rosenhaus, and Tony Danza. Al Pacino, I believe he spent the last 10 years doing nothing but yelling Tom Cruise is overrated, is the same cocky guy in the same cocky movie in every sport. Explain this with me. We can play this game and have some fun with this. Name a Tom Cruise movie. Cocktail, cocky bartender. Magnolias, cocky sexual deviant. He was a cocky vampire in one of the Brad Pitt movies. Days of Thunder, cocky race car driver. What are we looking at here? Color of Money, cocky billiards player. Jerry Maguire, cocky sports agent. A Few Good Men, cocky lawyer. Can we do this with all of them? No? Yes, I think so. Magnolia, we've got, what was the name of the movie with Nicole Kidman? Eyes Wide Shut. That's another cocky sexual deviant. That's 2 cocky sexual deviants on his resume. We will talk about that. We will talk about pop culture. We will talk about Tommy Lee Jones having as much range as Adam Sandler. He's always Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones always plays Tommy Lee Jones. I believe Wendy's gives you more value and taste per dollar than anything else that makes you fat. I believe that given the rate of failure, if marriage were an American product, it would have been recalled by now. I believe AstroTurf is the carpeting in hell. I believe Don King's hair stands up that way because it's trying to get away from him. And I believe the NFL has too many old white guys making the rules for young black ones. But I'm just getting started. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I do because this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to bring Stugotz in here in a second. Can we get all the new intros and stuff to just call him the Ho? Yeah, we can do that? All right. Because Houseboy seems too tame. I'm Dan LeBatard. Here's a Sports Center update.
Dan LeBatard.
I am the smartest man alive!
Stugotz. Weekdays 4 to 7 on 790 ESPN Radio.
It's 4:27. It's the Dan LeBatard Show. I am Stugotz, the Ho, the pool boy, the limousine driver. Dan, I will be your Al Cowlings any day. I will drive that white Bronco for you. Anytime you'd like.
I called him what? I called him A.J. Cowling?
AC?
A.C. Cowling?
Is that the guy?
I don't know. I'm going to be in the back with a mustache and a stack of cash as I murder radio, one day at a time, one syllable at a time.
Dan is holding a gun to his head. That's the call I made to the police, correct?
That's right. That's after that first segment, that's about how I'm feeling right now.
You okay? You hanging in there?
A little vulnerable, a little sweaty, a little unpleasant. This has been interesting because, like, you do national television. I've been doing this for 6 years on Sunday morning on 400 radio stations, and for some reason, don't ask me why, but for some reason, the beginning, the first 15 minutes of the show had me, like, agitated and a little more angst-filled than I ever am. Like, I do this show on Sunday mornings from my house in my boxer shorts, like with a cigar, barely paying attention to what it is I'm doing, just talking.
Yes.
For some reason, 15 minutes in my local market. I think it's probably because I care about this market so crazily.
Is it the local aspect of it?
Well, because the only reason I did that show on that I've done that show on ESPN Radio nationally was because it used to be carried here for a few hours. I don't care whether or not anybody knows who I am in Des Moines, Iowa, or what opinions I have.
Do you care to speak to anyone in Des Moines, Iowa?
No, never again, actually. But that's always the guy that approaches me with the crappy celebrity I have. Right. It's always the guy in the jersey from Des Moines, Iowa, with the Ewing jersey and the flabby white arms, and he's got one tooth, and he's about 350 pounds. It's never the supermodel who approaches you.
So I am I'm merely here to make this show some money. That is the whole thought behind the actuality of it, the reality of this radio program. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's not exactly so, because what you're doing is you're directing traffic for me, because I do not know this medium. I am not practiced in this medium. I am not polished in this medium. I didn't study it. I'm just somebody who yammers for a living.
I enjoy being your fluff, by the way, your caddy, carrying your bags through a team.
I like to think in the Olympic spirit of you as more of my setter. You know, we're like a beach volleyball team, and you're the little one, except on our team, I spike the ball off you sometimes, which doesn't seem very fair.
There's no chance I am spiking or going up for a block on our two-man beach volleyball team.
You're also very small.
I am.
Yes.
Tiny.
Right, and I'm large.
5'8". How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
You are?
Yes.
Should we get to some phone calls? Do you want to take phone calls? Because there are some people on the line who are dying to speak to you.
They're dying. They are tired of the show. They already want it taken off the air. They want me suspended. They want me canceled, I'm sure.
You have to love when the first call on the board, and we'll get to him in just 1 second, is Dan on a cell, and his topic is wanting to rip your show.
We're already. That's it. The historic first call. We're 30 minutes in. Would he do me the favor, though, of starting with, hey, Dan, long-time listener, first-time caller?
Are you dying to hear that?
Yeah, well, yeah, because, you know, you've been listening for 30 minutes.
We had someone on at 6:08 this morning who said he was a long-time listener, first-time caller, 8 minutes. Let's find out what Dan on a cell phone has to say to Dan LeBatard, who is in studio today. What's going on, Dan?
Not much. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. And
thank you, Dan.
LeBatard, I'm a big fan, man, and I hope the show actually does well. But I think the big problem is that you're going to make it too highbrow, man, and people don't want that for their sports. They want sleaze, and because I think what happens is when you make it highbrow, which is I think what your concept is, it exposes sports for what it is, which is, you know, just a bunch of games, and people, you know, spend a lot of money and all these resources going to it. I sure do hope you can pull it off, man, but I think this concept is doomed. Like to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, the thing is, though, and why it might sound that way, I'm surrounded by lesbians doing crack cocaine as we do this show. So even if it comes out that way as it's presented, you're not getting a peek behind the curtain. So we're gonna sleaze it up behind the scenes here, but on the air, we're probably not going to be. We're gonna try. What I'm going to try and do. What the idea behind it is, I'm going to talk to some of my smarter friends in sports, some of the people at the highest levels of sports journalism, and hopefully we could bring the level of discourse up, and hopefully you enjoy listening to it, because I've got some interesting people with interesting perspectives, and I very much enjoy talking to them.
I couldn't quite figure out that call, Dan. He's rooting for you, but in the same breath, he's almost rooting for you to fail as well.
Well, it was sort of a compliment. I was expecting much harsher out of the box, but I'm sure that we'll get to that over the course of time.
1-888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. It is the Dan LeBatard Show. I am Stugotz. We'll take you up till 7 o'clock tonight. Got some interesting guests on the show today. Wilbon and Kornheiser are going to be on together. That should be a... well, I don't know what that will be, but it should be interesting.
They have a real interesting dynamic, one that we have failed to recreate here in the first 30 minutes of this show.
What is that?
And they've just been lifelong friends. They've been friends for a couple of decades, and the chemistry oozes out. You got one younger black guy, and you got one older white guy, and they think very differently, but they're both very smart, and they're both very eloquent. And whenever anyone else does that show, me included, is an abject failure by comparison than when it is that those two are doing it. It just, you feel the friendliness. I'd like to think that I have something like that with Greg Cote here of the Miami Herald, because I love him dearly. He's one of my best friends in the world, and we don't agree on anything. He's a musty, ancient old man who just has these parental admonishing views on everything.
But that's the beauty of your relationship, isn't it?
It's part of it. Also, you know, we drink beer together, so that's kind of the foundation too.
Now, those guys have been friends, you said, Wilbon and Kornheiser, for years. You and I met about 45 minutes ago.
Right, which makes it a little bit problematic. I suspect we're going to have a little trouble recreating that same kind of chemistry.
1-888-790-ESPN, the Dan LeBatard Show, right here on 790 ESPN Radio.
And I don't like you very much.
I know you don't. And I don't like you much either, to be quite honest with you. You know, when I went to Joel, who's sitting to our left right now, and said, we got to hire this guy, you know, I sleepless night thinking about whether this was the right route to go.
We're selling our soul. We're selling. I feel like I'm shipping my soul to the registration counter in the depths on the fourth ring of hell.
I said, Joel, he's immensely talented, but I just don't like him that much. He said, I'll take the talent.
Well, you know what's interesting about that? ESPN has that sort of thing going in that they put like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless on the air, and Jay Mariotti, and people that they know that people are going to hate. My thing is, that sometimes I come off in print as just this blowhard know-it-all, and part of it is because as an opinion columnist, you're sort of arguing your point, and you're not giving a lot of room to the other side. Sure. And I'm hoping that what this show does is that shows people that I am not a jerk. I do not take myself seriously. All of this is fun and games. It's immensely amusing and entertaining, and all we want to do with this is have fun. That's it. That's all I want to do with this. I want to have 3 hours of fun worked into my day like you would work, a treadmill for an hour a day.
Well, why is it? Why do they think you're a jerk? I mean, I'm interviewing you now because I need to interview. Why is Dan LeBatard considered a jerk? Well, locally and nationally, maybe, a little tip.
I think that part of the problem comes from people aren't discerning between when they disagree with you and who it is that you are. Like, for example, I write any number of things that, if you are, for example, a born-again Christian, you are not going to like my stances on Allen Iverson because you simply object to Allen Iverson based on appearance, and you don't want to hear anything else. You don't want to hear that Allen Iverson plays harder than anybody in the game. You do not want to hear some of the things that I have to say about athletes. I like athletes. I do not hate athletes like so many of my sports writing brethren, and so I think a lot of people, what they end up doing is they get so angry listening to the opinion that they don't agree with that they just say that guy's a jerk, that guy. So hopefully over the course of this program what will end up happening is that people will get to know me a little better, and then they'll hate me.
Are you hoping that they warm up to Dan LeBatard? Are you hoping for that?
You know what?
Or do you not care?
No, I really don't. I mean, I can't. When you're doing what I'm doing, like you have to have sort of an unwavering confidence in what it is that you're doing, and I don't bother myself too much with. I believe I'm pretty good at what I do for a living. Right. And so if somebody objects, I don't think that anybody who's criticizing me, generally speaking, who's going to be calling the show, maybe my bosses, maybe somebody in journalism might know more about journalism than I do. Sure. But I'm guessing that somebody who's calling in probably doesn't.
By the way, in your opening segment there, and it was brilliant, by the way, I must throw that in. When you said you didn't need the job, I've never seen Joel's head turn around so quickly.
Right. Well, he knows
I don't need this job.
Well, you know what? That's got to be part of the appeal because you've got on the air somebody who's not afraid. I am not afraid to criticize the Miami Herald. I am not afraid to criticize ESPN. If I don't like things about what it is that's going on, I'm going to say so. You're going to get a completely undistilled view from me. It's not tied to a paycheck.
How'd you like the spread the Herald did for you today? Pretty nice.
It was a little excessive.
It was.
It's a little incestuous. I don't know how it is.
Are you embarrassed by it?
Well, I'm not embarrassed by it. I just don't know how you guys crawled in there. Like, you've been on the air 6 seconds, and all of a sudden, this is a distinguished publication here.
That was actually published before we went on the air. How do you like that magic?
This is like, I think we have 17 Pulitzer Prizes, and this is a bunch of kids running a radio station. You somehow got on the front. You know how long it took me to get on the front page of the sports section? And you're already on it.
That is the genius. Right? That is the genius of Scott Becker.
Where's the Sun Sentinel? Where's the word? You didn't get a word, Becker. You didn't get a word in the Sun Sentinel. You're a crock just because you got an incest working with my newspaper.
Oh, boy. 888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. Dan, let's actually talk sports here for just a minute. We'll get back out to the phones in just 1 second. Eisenberg's got an update coming up. Marlins, Mets tonight. Glavine and Valdez on the mound. Marlins hot, 1-5 straight. LaDuca, Mota making a difference on this team, and I know you love that trade, Dan. How's Brad Penny doing?
Well, let me ask you a question here. We're playing the result there on the injury because you knew Penny was going to get it. Where were you 5 days ago?
I love the trade.
Where were you 5 days ago when this team was floundering, though? When this team was doing the same thing? I'm telling you that there were guys in that clubhouse 5 days ago, because I was in that clubhouse, saying, we're done. Right. Guys who play for that baseball team. I don't know what to make of this baseball team. I have no idea what to make of it. I was dead wrong about the Marlins last year because I thought that when they got Pudge Rodriguez, I wrote that it was like putting breasts on a corpse.
I do remember that.
And they won the World Series. But I can't figure this team out because I would have thought that there was just simply no chance that this team... I'm talking about 3 days ago, after they lost that game to the Giants in extra innings. Yes. I would have said at that point, that's a crushing defeat. They've got too many teams ahead of them. They've got no chance. And I've got to stop. I've got to learn to stop not believing in this team.
That is the beauty of this team. Every time you think they're out of it, they somehow creep back into it. You ask where I was 5 days ago. I was with the other 5,000 Marlin fans down here jumping off the wagon. I
want to talk to you in the next segment. When we come back, I don't know what we got going on in the next segment. I want to talk to you. I want to break down the mathematics of that LaDuca trade so that I can explain to you more fully why it is that I didn't like it. Will I actually have to calculate numbers and do mathematics, or you'll just break it down? I'm gonna make your head hurt, and you're gonna have to bring out a calculator. We're gonna do one more call before we go to the break, if that's all right with you, Dan. 888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. We go out to Robert, who's on a mobile phone. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, what's going on, man?
How are you?
Hey, I can give you a couple of good reasons why I think this guy's a jerk, but I'm not. You know what I mean? The only thing I'm going to say is he's a real confusing individual. How he can give props to one guy who wants to leave football to go smoke herb, and then the next week say, oh, we should be praising his decision or looking up to him instead of criticizing him. Do you remember the first article you wrote, Dan?
Yes. Why don't you tell me a little more about that article?
No, you might not want my opinion since you think that...
I want your opinion. I just called you.
You're not going to give a crap about my opinion. You just said so.
No.
If I'm not a journalist,
go ahead.
I can give a crap.
Give me your opinion.
Robert, he's asking for the opinion. What else do you want him to do?
I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
I just want to think, and I just want to ask you, of all this crap that's been going on, are you just going to still, like, bow to this guy's knee just because you can get an interview with him? Everybody knows he's wrong, but you're the only one that thinks he's right. That's what I don't understand.
Not everyone knows that he's wrong. There are a number of different...
Excuse me, 10% of the people in Florida don't think he's right. 90% do. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Where was the Gallup poll on that? What, did you do a Gallup poll yourself on that?
Yeah, on 560, on 940, and on now here, I'm pretty sure you're going to get 80 more percent.
Oh, so now it's 90% and 80%. So it's 170% we have that's against my opinion on this, and 10% are with me. I'd like to meet that 10%. We'll talk more about this after the break, but thank you for calling, and keep doing so, by the way. I don't mind criticism. I rather enjoy it. It's entertaining.
It's interesting. He bases his polls on the callers that call into talk shows like this, when actually about 1/1000th of the callers actually call into sports radio talk shows.
And there's a clouded, sort of rabid version of this. Like, there is nobody. If you want your team to succeed, like, you're furious, and I understand that, and you want him back in your huddle under all circumstances because he makes your team better. But we'll talk more about Ricky Williams, I'm sure, over the course of the program.
888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. The Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz. We'll take you up till 7 o'clock tonight. Get back to your phone calls after the break. Eisenberg's got the update coming up.
LeBatard. Stugotz. Weekdays 4 to 7 on 790 ESPN Radio.
When you're doing that Sunday national show, and you're in your boxers with the cigar, is this the music in the background?
This is Arturo Sandoval. I love Arturo Sandoval. I just love him juxtaposed with, like, Ludacris and Jay-Z. Like, that's the best. What did Toast think when I asked for that? Like, he's thinking to himself, how do these things... I think right now we're going to have to choose one or the other, because I don't think this works with what it is that we... NWA and Arturo Sandoval don't go together.
Wait a second. You asked Toast to get you this particular CD, so what did you want to do, not go get it?
I was hoping he'd come up with something a little more upbeat than that.
What, like the remix version?
This right here was just, it was loungy. I wanted something a little faster. See if you can look into that, Toast, would you?
888-790-ESPN. It is the Dan LeBatard Show. I am Stugotz, the Ho, hanging out with LeBatard till 7 o'clock. We got the phone lines lit up. I was asking you during the break, do you feel, because this is your first stint on the local scene doing a radio show, that you have about 8 to 10 years of explaining to do?
Well, I'm sure that there are people going to call over the course of this program that are going to ask about an article written a decade ago about the University of Miami program that ended up with Sports Illustrated writing that the program should be disbanded. Yeah, because Miami hasn't had a lot of success since then or anything. But so I suspect that we'll have a lot to talk about over the course of time. It's sort of why you get into journalism, though. You know, if not to get people talking necessarily, but to get them thinking a little bit. So there'll be plenty of time to answer everybody's questions. I hope that people are interested in the journalistic aspects of this and you know, any number of things that they disagree about. I'm hoping that they call. 5
years from today, if you and I were still doing this show, and for your sake, I hope that we're not. But if we were 5 years, I'll take shots at myself too, Dan, by the way. But 5 years from today, if we're still doing the show, you still will get the Ricky Williams calls. You do realize that.
I'm sure that
if he never plays another down again, you'll still get the call.
And the funny thing is about that is I have no idea, even being close to him, and I've admitted that I'm his friend, and that's created any amount of angst here in terms of balancing professional and personal. But I have no idea as we speak here. I cannot tell you what it is that he is going to do. I can't tell you if he's going to be back tomorrow. I can't tell you if he's going to be back 4 games from now. I can't tell you if he's going to be back a year from now or never at all. What I do know is that what he has said is that he does not plan on coming back this year, and my guess would be that he'll probably come back next year for another team. But it's hard to sort of juxtapose all the things that are at work here, what I think of his behavior, what he says his behavior is like. He may, for example, simply be running away from the 4 failed drug tests. Now, I've never known anybody to throw away their entire career and retire when getting a 4-game suspension. It would be unprecedented in this sport, and it may be what he's doing. But all I can tell you is that he's saying that that's not what's at work here. The people around him are a little worried about him because they think that obviously the behavior is erratic, and he's living in a tent in Australia, obviously. He's given away fame and money and glory. But when you speak to him about these things, and when Lee Steinberg speaks to him about these things, his responses are unbelievably utopian and lucid and enlightened in terms of, those are not my gods. I'm not worshiping those gods anymore. Of course, it comes out contradictory when a few days later, he's calling Dave Wanstead at the behest of Lee Steinberg, and he's saying, you know, money, and I want a new offensive coordinator. And then his logic is what he says, not what I say, but what he says is, well, the black man has been held down by, you know, the white man for so long, and if I'm going to come back and do something that doesn't make me as happy as it should, then I will be compensated properly for it, and I will have some control over my own freedom. That's what he says, not what I say.
When you say, Dan, that you have a hunch that he will be back next season playing football, whether it's with Miami or with the Oakland Raiders or any of the other teams in the NFL, is that sheerly driven by, you think he still has love for the game, or is it just as simple as money, finances?
No, it may be. I don't think anything about this is simple. I think that he is a little conflicted. I think that he came out with his original reasons, which were utopian and noble, and that they weren't the only reasons. That ever since then, we've seen any number of reasons come out in dribs and drabs. We've seen the marijuana use. We've seen the money, the unhappiness with the offensive coordinator, the unhappiness with the offense. There are, as he said from the beginning, 100 reasons for why it is that he has done this. But I think that if he returns in a year, I think it'll be because he realizes, A, it was a pretty good gig, and B, he's just going to miss the adrenaline rush of Sundays, because Deion Sanders, there is nothing more deafening for the retired athlete than the silence that comes after a lifetime of mid-cheering. There's just nothing. You cannot recreate that in family. You can't recreate it in real estate deals. There's nothing. Magic Johnson is still trying to recreate it by buying the world. He can't. He had to keep coming back and coming back. And so I suspect that even as he pays good lip service to wanting to be away from the fame and the adrenaline rush of Sundays, that he's going to grow to miss it. That's what I think, though. That's not what he's saying. He's saying he's clear on it.
I know you were going to break down the mathematics of the Marlin trade, and we will do that after this break. Apologize, I went with the Ricky. I think people want to hear your thoughts on Ricky Williams, and I think
they also want to tell me that I'm wrong about Paul Del Duca. So
I think they probably do as well. But I think you were away when the whole story broke, and you and I spoke a couple of times, and we just spoke about it during the break. What was the reaction down here? I think it was just the sheer timing of it. That's what upset people about the Ricky Williams retirement.
And I have no idea what it is that was going on during this, because I was traveling. I have no earthly idea. I can imagine what it was, because, I mean, people are rabid about this team. Nothing in sports matters the way that this team matters in sports. But I think it's interesting that, I don't know what my role is journalistically on this particular thing, because I'm all tangled up in terms of personal and professional relationship. But I did criticize the move as selfish as soon as it happened. I just didn't think, I knew everybody else would be doing that, so I thought my responsibility at the time was to give him a voice that nobody else was giving him, which is because he wasn't talking to anybody else. So it put me in an awkward and compromising spot, but I imagine we'll be talking about this thing for
the rest of the time.
Or longer, perhaps. I suspect that I am going to stop either at the gates of heaven or somewhere in hell and be stopped by Satan and say, hey, what's up with that Ricky Williams thing?
Can you wait 7 or 8 minutes to break down the LeDuca trade?
I can't. Okay with you? I'm slobbering all over the microphone. I need to do it right now, but I guess I'm going to have to so you can shill.
We'll get to it right after the break. 888-790-ESPN. 888-790-ESPN. It is the Dan LeBatard Show. We'll get to all your calls after the break. Mark, Mikey, Noel, get to all you guys after the break. Hey, 790 ESPN Radio is up and running, and what better way to celebrate our launch than by giving away free tickets? That's right. Listen all day, every day, as we give away a pair of tickets for either the Marlins, Dolphins, Heat, Canes, or Panthers. Even FIU. Every hour. For the first 790 hours, we are on the air. 790 ESPN Radio, South Florida's ticket to local sports. Sports Center update coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll be back after this.
LeBatard. Stugotz. Weekdays 4 to 7 on 790 ESPN Radio.
Yeah. Sander Paul, so me go so then. Well, I don't really care what people say. I don't really watch what them want to do. still I got to stick to my girls.
How was that, LeBatard?
A little bit better there. Symbolic. A little bit of symbolism.
It is 5:06. It's a Wednesday, September 1, 2004. Day number 1 of 790 ESPN Radio. Nice to have you all aboard. We're happy about it. Want to give a shout out.
How do you feel, by the way? Do you feel pretty historic?
I told you I feel historic. I told you the story last night where I was just up pacing around my house at around 1:30 this morning, and the kids, twin girls, started to just wail. I mean, cry. And I paid absolutely no attention to it whatsoever.
Well, that's good. It's good to see that your priorities are in the wrong place because this station right now is far more important than anything going on with your children. Okay?
This is my baby. And so I was walking around the house pacing in anticipation for 6 o'clock today, and the wife said, if you're not going to help with the kids, get the hell out of the house. And I drove around for a few hours.
I suspect that I am going to have that same feeling welling inside me at various points during this program. If you're not going to help with the program, get the hell out of the studio is what I'm going to drop on you.
Are you ready to hop in the car right now and drive around for a few hours?
Right, I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to retire and go off to Asia. What do you think? Living a tent in Australia.
I think you got a friend who's doing the same thing right now, don't you? 888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. Stugotz, LeBatard. It is the Dan LeBatard Show. We will take you up till 7 o'clock tonight. Will Von Kornheiser going to join us in a few minutes. Greg Cote going to join us later as well. Chris Mortensen going to join us in the 6 o'clock hour. I want to thank a few people before we go out to the phones and break down the mathematics, the dynamics of the Marlin trade a couple of weeks ago. I want to thank Joel Feinberg, President and CEO of Primetime Media Group, for giving all of us the opportunity to be here doing what we're doing right now, and, of course, 3 other partners of ours that were involved in making 790 ESPN Radio a reality. Of course, Alan Brown, Scotty Becker, and Kurt Murphy.
This is why you're here, to deal with the niceties.
Don't you like that?
I will not.
You would never do that, Dan.
Like, no, I'm not. You're sitting here. You're making all of a sudden a Grammy Award speech that nobody cares about in the middle of my show.
You see that right in front of the boss, for crying out loud.
Come on, you're just blanketly shilling. It's embarrassing for me and all 7 of our listeners right now.
Well, 3 of them are on the line right now. 3 of those 7. Never forget, Joel, Dan doesn't need this job.
Well, but we're thankful. We're thankful because we're here. Look, I've dragged myself in here to come and do the show. It goes without saying that we're thankful that they got the thing up and running so that I could, listen to my own voice for 3 hours a day.
Did you really drag? Did you feel like you had this big, huge weight around your ankle all day today as you were coming in? What would you be doing right now?
I felt like Atlas, to be honest with you. I felt like I was carrying a rock up a mountain, yes, because I had to come in here and endure you. Don't thank any more people. Let's move on.
Break down the mathematics of the trade, Dan. A lot of people wondering why you thought that was a bad trade for the Florida Marlins.
To me, it's fascinating. Did you read the book Moneyball?
I did. Bits and pieces.
I find fascinating the disconnect between sort of what's happening in the mainstream media with and with scouts that are grizzled and believe what they see and don't care about the empirical evidence and applying the math. And then all of a sudden on the side, you've got these whiz kids, 28, 29, 30 years old, running teams like the Dodgers and the Boston Red Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays, where they're, among other things, I don't want to get, I don't want this to become a calculus class, but what they're doing basically is they're using on-base percentage and slugging percentage to measure things. They're doing things like Hinsky in Toronto was... They traded for him without ever seeing him play, based on nothing. No scout saw him. The GM never saw him. They just traded it for him because of the on-base percentage and the slugging percentage and the plate discipline. So, with all of that said, I've never seen a trade in baseball, not one, where you had the mainstream feeling that clearly the Marlins had done something that was inspired because they needed a catcher and they got an all-star, and they needed help in the bullpen and they got one of the best set of men in the game. And there's no disputing that. They did those things, and you would think that would make them better. But the mathematicians on the other end were saying that Brad Penny, the Dodgers got themselves an ace to a staff, one of the top 10 ERAs. Now, we can't factor in whether or not Brad Penny gets hurt. Nobody knows what's going to happen there.
Very fair.
And Hesop Choi, a guy who is going to, based on the way that the mathematicians do the numbers on this, be a very cheap bat that gives you 30 home runs a season from now on. Now, all of this stuff is imprecise, but they're saying that they traded Moda and LaDuca at peak value with high contracts. These guys are about to get into big contracts, and that the mathematicians are saying universally, like a Baseball Prospectus and all these smart publications, are saying that the Dodgers got better value per dollar in that trade than the Marlins did. And all I wrote in the paper was, it's not a bad trade. It's just not a good trade. It just sort of makes them feel the same as they were before. And 4 games ago, I look right, If they lose 4 more games, I look right because they're basically 4 games better right now than they were when they made this trade.
But fair to say, if there was something the Marlins could part with, it was a starting pitcher. And Hee-Seop Choi, for whatever you think he's going to be, was hit or miss. It was the Dave Kingman syndrome. It was a home run, or he was striking out 3 times.
You know what, though? His on-base percentage was the best on the team. He had a .400 on-base percentage. It was better than Lowell. It was better than Cabrera. The reason his RBI and run totals weren't good because the lineup around him stunk.
Terrible.
Now, I understand. Like, it's one of these things where I don't get it with the people watching sports in this town. They thought Derek Lee stunk. Derek Lee was one of their... No, but Derek Lee was vastly underrated his entire time here. And in Hee-Seop Choi, they looked at him, and a lot of them felt that way. And I don't even blame you for thinking like that. Jack McKeon thought Hee-Seop Choi was a guy who was, just all he does is give me broken bat doubles. So he was tired of Hee-Seop Choi. But I just think that for me, all I look at, I don't look at anything else. I look at on-base and slugging because those are the independent stats. Like, I don't look anymore at RBI because RBI the number is based on who's getting on in front of you. If you don't have anyone getting on in front, like Pujols and Edmonds and Roland are going to have their RBI because they're always on base. The team's one of the best offenses in the history of baseball. So if I put Hee-Seop Choi in that lineup, all of a sudden you would like his numbers a lot better.
That's a fair statement. Getting back to Barry Bonds to Roland, Pujols, and Edmonds for just 1 second. I saw you on PTI the other day arguing about the NL MVP and saying clear-cut it should be Barry Bonds. And I think certainly Barry Bonds is the greatest player in the game today, the greatest player I think we all have ever seen play baseball. But for 1 year, can we give the thing to Adrian Beltre? There's no way I'm going to convince you that Adrian Beltre is the MVP of the NL this year.
If your logic is simply, let's change it up a little bit, if that's the strength of your argument.
That's the only logic.
If that's, hey, I'm tired of giving it to the same guy, then yeah, Adrian Beltre, I think he's hit 500 here over the last month. He's gone crazy. But he is not nearly in the Bonds division. And let me explain this to you as quickly as I can here. Barry Bonds,
you can take your time. You got an hour and 45 minutes, buddy. There's no rush.
Barry Bonds, for the last 4 seasons, has put up a 500-plus on-base percentage. And nobody has done that for a single season, not one season, since Ted Williams did it half a century ago. Barry Bonds right now, Ichiro's a pretty good player, right?
Fantastic.
He's good at, he's leading off. He won an MVP because he's lead off. He's on pace to have more hits than anyone in a single season,
56
right?
56 this month.
Okay.
Or last month.
The difference between Barry Bonds' on-base percentage and Ichiro's on-base percentage is larger than the difference between Ichiro's on-base percentage and Roger Clemens' on-base percentage. He makes everyone look like pitchers, even the elite players in the game. He makes Ichiro, Ichiro's job is to get on base. That's what he does. He's a leadoff man. And Barry Bonds is just, we've never seen anything like this. No. He's unprecedented and more impressive than that to me. He's 40 years old, dude.
It's amazing.
I mean, who?
And getting better.
And yeah, for the last 4 years,
better.
When is he going to age? It doesn't make any sense that at 40 years old, this guy is doing. We've never seen this in the history of American sports.
But one of the things you look at when you look at least I look at when you look at the MVP candidates is if you took that guy off that team, how would they do? Now, that doesn't really come into play here because if you took Barry off that team, they'd be terrible. But it is fair to say if you took Beltre out of that lineup, Dodgers aren't going to the playoffs.
Well, and that is fair. That makes the argument for Bonds against all of the Cardinals because the Cardinals, you could take any one player off of their team and it wouldn't make any difference.
Correct.
But Beltre, the amazing thing about Beltre and the reason that he may very well win the MVP award, aside from your logic of, hey, let's switch this up a little bit.
Someone else, right?
Come on. Barry's got enough of them. He's got more than anyone ever. Let's stop this. Is that Beltre, that offense last year, the Dodgers offense, was historically bad.
Terrible.
And, I mean, you were talking about one of the 20 worst offenses ever.
Horrific.
And then all of a sudden, Beltre, and it's not that, personnel-wise, it's not that different this year.
Right, he just broke out.
Your third baseman has gone insane. So, in that respect, I wouldn't mind if they gave it to him, but they'd be wrong in giving it to him.
Right.
I mean, the MVP
Bonds is just clearly the best player in the game.
Just name the trophy after him. And 40, dude. That's what I don't get. I don't understand. Michael Jordan at 40 was not the same player. No. Michael Jordan. I mean, to be the best in your sport at 40, you will find no precedent for it. You will find, and nowhere we can go across. Go ahead, feel free. I mean, Pete Sampras is out of his game at 33 years old.
Yeah. It's a good point. Where does it end with that? I mean, does he keep going?
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
is he just going for Aaron and he stops? I mean, where does it end with this guy?
Well, he likes money, and I talked to him last week when he was in town, and he doesn't. He's like, Julio Franco's bat speed didn't decline, and he's 46.
Sure.
Like, my bat speed, he says, my bat speed will not slow until I am blind. So, I mean, there is no evidence. Like, he can, I mean, remember, Willie Mays, his godfather, was stumbling out of the batter's box at this age, was embarrassing himself with the Mets at this age. We've got to see something that resembles decline. He's still the best player in baseball, though, which is crazy.
888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN, the Dan LeBatard Show. I'm Stugotz. We'll take you up till 7 o'clock. Let's get to some phone calls. People have been waiting on the line for a while. Dan, we'll start it off with Mel, who is on a mobile phone wanting to talk about the UM-FSU game. What's going on, Mel?
Hey, what's going on, Levy? Congratulations, man.
Thank you, buddy. How are you?
You don't even know what this is, but listen, you need to put some Luke Skywalker tunes on your intro, so therefore you get some Luke on there.
This is Mel Bratton, isn't it?
Yes, it is. What's going on, Doctor? How you doing, bro?
I'm okay. Are you wearing one of your Two Live Crew bandanas right now, reminiscing about the glory days?
Yeah, I got the Levy poster posted out the car. I'm screaming on Turnpike, man, saying go Levy for his first show.
My guess is Mel Bratton has seen some wild and debaucherous, raunchy behavior around Two Live Crew. What do you think?
Well, I cannot reveal that secret right now. That's a code right now. We still probably have an investigation with NCAA after I start talking about that.
Mel, how excited are you about seeing these two teams play here on Monday night? Mel Bratton joining us here on 790 ESPN. I got to imagine that this is pretty exciting for you whenever it is that it's Seminoles and Hurricanes.
You know what, I tell you what, this should be a great matchup. You know, we like our competition coming down. If you notice, every time we play Florida State, when there's a hurricane warnings or any type of hurricane signs, we win the ball game. So if you guys are bettors out there, so you better take the Canes in this game. So,
what did you think to yourself, Mel, when you saw a lot of people, Willis McGahee, getting injured in his last game? It reminded me of you getting hurt in your last game, and then all of a sudden, first-round status coming. You don't blame any of these guys for going pro as early as they can, do you, Mel?
No, in the beginning, I was kind of nervous. Like, my junior year, there was rumors that, some scouts had me as a second-round pick, and it was a lot of money. Well, back then, it wasn't no money comparison to now. It's a signing bonus for what we're looking for, but right now, it's like so much money being thrown out there as far as the signing bonuses. You can't blame a kid, to go out there and take a chance and be able to take care of yourself financially for the rest of your career, but it's unfortunate that injury happened, but technology is a plus on Willis' side to be able to come back and hopefully he has a Pro Bowl year.
I got to imagine that you are mortified as you see all these excessive celebration rules in the NFL. It's your fault, Mel. I blame you. I blame your teams. All of this stuff, they've cracked down on it because of what you guys were running over, you were a motorcycle gang running over a church picnic.
Well, you know what? I tell people, they ask me, why did I take my helmet off all the time when I scored? Look at the basketball guys. They have no helmet or face masks. All the girls know they are, so, hey, I had to go to show my pretty face for the fans.
That's all that matters. It's why we do everything we do, all the girls. That's all you care about. Mel, we got to go, buddy. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for the call.
Good luck, man. Much success.
Thank you, Mel.
Thanks, Mel. You like these teams meeting so early in the season? I mean, after this game on Monday, there's not really a big game left on the schedule, is there?
No, I mean, they've played every 3 minutes for the last 3 years. Enough already.
That's a good point. We'll take a quick time out. 888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. Mikey T, David, all you guys on hold. We will get to your phone calls in just a couple of minutes. Hang in there. 790 ESPN Radio on a Wednesday. Eisenberg's got the update coming up next. We'll be back.
The Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz.
Good luck with the casual sex.
On 790 ESPN Radio.
Took 90 minutes. Dan's finally sitting in a chair, relaxed, in his boxer shorts.
What's cold?
Not in his boxer shorts. You gonna rip out the cigar in a second, buddy?
I'm negotiating to see if I can get some cigar smoke in this studio. Can we get, this is real simple, and I should have talked to those folks beforehand.
You should have.
Just every video that was up for video music, video of the year, get me that as the music. Those 5 songs, all lean back, all of that. That would be fine.
Does that calm you down?
What did you just play? What was that? I didn't. Do you know?
Does anyone know the name of the song?
Toaster, you're not listening to the program.
He just told you that you're in his domain now.
An hour and a half into my entire prestigious radio career here, and you're not even listening to the program.
And here, you know what? Look what you dragged in.
Snoop Dogg and Tupac, man, from old school.
There you go.
I don't like that. Get that out of here.
Go write a column, will you?
All I want from you is good music, man. That's all I ask from you.
How about coming up with a different line for you, then? Go write a column.
Hey,
it seems to be his line of choice.
Go ask your producer.
Oh, I thought you were taking. He's busy. He's trying. The PTI guys are now going crazy. What happened?
He's the executive producer.
Oh, is he?
Yes. Delegating.
I don't know what the rules are around.
Do we have Greg Cote on the line, guys? We do have Greg Cote on the line. The first official love fest here in the Dan LeBatard Show. Miami Herald columnist.
How are you?
Cote. How are you?
You guys are having a lot of laughs there. It's like morning zoo format in the afternoon. I like it.
Well, hold on a second here. Do we have breaking news or do we not have breaking news on Kobe Bryant? Do we know yet? Yes?
We have breaking news.
The case has been thrown out? Is that what we're alleging?
The case has been dismissed. Andy, give us the news.
Hold on a second. Did I or did I not come on at the beginning of this program and say we have all of the world's major news resources at our fingertips? We've got the Miami Herald, we've got ESPN, and I'm sitting here and I'm asking about Kobe Bryant, and I can't get an answer.
I like you better when you were standing.
No.
We interrupt this program with breaking news from 790 ESPN Radio.
The breaking news, then, it appears, as we cannot hear you guys in the on the other side of the glass, that the Kobe Bryant case has been dismissed.
And what proof do we have of this other than somebody just came into the studio and said it might be so? This is how we gather our news around here. Hey, the PTI guys can't come on right now. They're redoing their show because of breaking news. Good Lord, this is irresponsible.
Can we speak to Mr. Cote for just 1 second?
Well,
we'll get back to the... I will find out the Kobe Bryant information for you, okay?
All right.
Speak to your friend.
I'm sorry, Greg Cote. Greg, what's going on, buddy? Do you know anything about this? You're coming on blind, as with most things, right? Turn off that music. Enough with the... That's the breaking news music? Good Lord. How do you feel about the anarchy on the program so far, Cote? Now we've misplaced Greg Cote? Are we completely off the air?
Oh, my Lord.
This is the best.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
We turn on the music, and all of a sudden the guests go off the air. A vaudevillian Kane comes in here and pulls Wiener out of the room. All right, let's start, Greg Cote. You ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you. And there is no breaking news as of this very second.
Okay.
How are you, Greg?
So all of the Kobe thing is a false report. Is that right?
Oh, I don't know. We're just being blatantly irresponsible here. Let's talk about Feely and Fiedler until we can get to the actual accusation, shall we?
Okay.
Because you and I disagree vehemently on this, because I don't understand how it is that you can say to anyone that given in the last 4 years they've had, one playoff victory, and you want the status quo when all of a sudden, more than ever, because Boston and Ricky Williams are gone, they need Jake Delhomme-type play out of their quarterback, and Jake Delhomme had 8 comeback victories in the fourth quarter last year, more than anybody in the sport, and Jay Fiedler had one of those against the Redskins.
Unfortunately, Jake Delhomme is not competing for the Dolphins starting job. I haven't seen anything out of A.J. Feely that impresses me, to be honest with you. He needed to come in here and win the job. Jay is and was the incumbent, and I think it was incumbent upon Feely to come in here and take the job from him, and I don't think he has.
Would you allow for the fact that what they have had at that position over the last 4 years, based on the scoreboard and the standings, is not enough?
I think what they've had is mediocre. I think what they've had is winning football from the quarterback position. But sure, I can't argue that it's been enough when they haven't made the playoffs 2 straight years, and that's ultimately, the quarterback takes a lot of that responsibility.
So all things being equal, Greg Cote, all things being equal, should we not at least see if the other guy can do more than produce a 4-year playoff run that is like 147-13 in terms of the scores against the Dolphins? Like, shouldn't we at least just see if the other guy can do something to close that 130-point gap?
Well, but you see that in the exhibition season. I don't think you wait until the regular season to see that.
Feely, I mean, for some reason they've given way too many exhibition snaps to Sage Rosenfels. I think that's a mistake that the Dolphins have made. They should have given every snap during preseason games to the two competitors for the starting job, and they haven't. So we haven't seen as much of Feely as we needed to, but I think we've seen enough to decide that this guy is not an upgrade over Jay Fiedler. I just haven't seen anything that puts him in that Jake Delhomme category that you're trying to invent for him.
Guys, fair to say, regardless of who lines up at the quarterback spot, the offensive line just so terrible that it really doesn't make a difference. That's where you got to start, at the offensive line.
Well, I think that's a valid point, and I would dare to say that that's a point that sort of backs up my attitude, because Jay Fiedler is more mobile than A.J. Feely. Fiedler is more apt to dance out of the pocket and make a gain out of a fire drill than is Feely. And I think that's a legitimate reason to favor Fiedler in a close race, because he is more mobile, and they do have one of the worst offensive lines in the game.
Can I ask you what it is that A.J. Feely would have to do? I mean, given the detriments that they have at the skill positions, what would A.J. Feely have had to have done in the preseason for you to get off your Fiedler rah-rah and to take off the cheerleading skirt that you have and the Dolphin Denny aqua and sequined hat that you wear because you're cheering for these guys? Explain to me what he would have had to have done for you to say, you know what? Yeah, A.J. Feely is the guy I need to have as my quarterback.
First of all, I want to explain so nobody gets the wrong idea. The Dolphin Denny sequined hat is because I'm a homer. The cheerleader outfit is just for my own personal use. It's just because I enjoy it, so let's get that straight. A.J. Feely needed to come in and do something, show something. He needed to come in and demonstrate that he's a guy who is just busting at the seams to be a starting quarterback in this league, that he's worth the risk, that he's a guy who has shown himself to be superior than Jay Fiedler, and I don't think he's done that. I think he's been mediocre. I don't think he's had a good first few games. Now, he may wow everybody in New Orleans Friday and change some opinions, but going into the last exhibition game, I think you stick with Jay Fiedler, because I think he's more proven to be at least a average NFL quarterback, where A.J. Feely is not.
Stugotz, help me out here, because I didn't even see the last preseason game. All I did was read about it. Did A.J. Feely not have the better preseason game last game?
Last game, he did have the better preseason game. It's an interesting argument with Fiedler or Feely. You have the guy who's been here,
but you have a guy who's been here and not been good enough. You know exactly what it is you're getting, and it has not been good enough. You need more from the quarterback position.
But at least he's proven he can get you 10 wins, where this guy hasn't proven he can get you any wins.
But is that what the point of this is? Is the point of this to get to 10 wins and then lose 62-7 in the playoffs, or 27-0 in the playoffs, or 38-3 in the playoffs?
Let's be honest. Does it matter? This team could potentially, regardless of who lines up behind the center, team could be horrible.
Greg Cote, what do you think we're going to see from this team this year? Give me the record, Greg Cote of the Miami Herald, and keeping in mind that the cheerleader guy and the sequined hat guy predicted that the Dolphins would win the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
Give me the record of what it is that this team is going to do.
I think the Dolphins are going to surprise people. Expectations are so low right now. I'm not sure what the Vegas over-under is, probably 8 or 8.5. I think the Dolphins are going to be what they usually are, which is maddening to their fans. I think they're going to be a 9-7 type team that is in the hunt for a wild card late in December. And that's all they're going to be. They're not a sound team this year. They're not the team they were the last couple of years. I don't think they're that good. But I do think they've got the defense to keep them in games and to win around half of them.
Well, that's fantastic. So they will just barely miss the playoffs again and have the 21st pick in the draft next year.
I think there's a pretty good likelihood of that, yeah.
How tired are these fans around here, by the way, you as the guy who is perpetually rooting for this team, of being on this same always good but not good enough treadmill?
Well, I think they're sick and tired of it, and I think that's been the problem for Jay Fiedler. The problem for Fiedler has not been the shadow of Dan Marino. I think that's a fallacy. The problem for Fiedler has been that he has not been able to right what's been wrong. He has not by himself been able to lead this team beyond the second round of the playoffs. I want to throw a statistic out to you, and this is, you can do anything with numbers, but this is sort of meant to simply point out that I think Dolphin fans are way too critical of Jay Fiedler. Jay Fiedler's Dolphin quarterback rating is better than Hall of Famer Bob Griese's. Now, you can make whatever you want of that, but that's a fact.
All right, let me give you another fact, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this one. In 4 years, Jay Fiedler has produced a single touchdown drive in the playoffs.
Why are you pinning this all on Jay Fiedler?
Is that one? Is that one? Am I right? In 4 years?
Yeah, that's true.
One playoff?
Right.
It might be 2 touchdowns.
No, you're right, but in fairness, I don't think Jay Fiedler was...
I'm not pinning it all on Jay Fiedler. All I'm saying is I'd like to see if somebody could produce more than 1 touchdown in 4 years.
And A.J. Feely's that guy you'd like to see do it?
That's the guy they traded for, so let me see if he can do it or not.
But you've seen it the last 3 games, though, and you haven't seen enough. See, that's the problem. A.J.
I haven't seen enough for 4 years. I haven't seen enough. Give me a few more games of A.J. Feely. I've seen the same game for 4 years. I'm watching Groundhog Day with the Dolphins for the last 4 years. Let me see somebody else at quarterback do the same things or worse. At least then I could say, okay, never mind. Put Jay Fiedler back in there.
A.J. Feely is not Mark Brunell. He's not Kurt Warner. He did not arrive in town with a track record. There's nothing...
Kurt Warner's lost his last 8 games, and Mark Brunell has been concussed and thinking about M&Ms for 4 seasons.
Yeah, but at least they have a track record beyond 5 games of NFL experience.
That's a real pioneer you are there, Cody. Give me track records. If it's your way of thinking, Marino would have never gotten put in because he doesn't have a track record. Haven't seen anything.
A.J. Feely has no track record, and he has no August. He has no exhibition play.
Don Schrock, let's play him. He's got a track record.
Dan, are you tired of wallowing in mediocrity? Is that the problem here? Because Greg subscribes to the theory, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you lose your best player, in this case it was Ricky Williams because of retirement, everyone else will rally around that fact and they'll have a pretty decent season.
Greg Cody likes mediocrity because his entire career has been based upon it. See you later, big fella. See you later, big fella.
Greg,
welcome to the program.
Enjoy, try on the Dolphin cheerleader outfit tonight. And you got to do us a favor. Stop using the paper as a vehicle of trying to get a job here, please.
I promise. I'm just trying to give you guys a little pub.
We appreciate it.
This is a terrific show from what I've heard. It's an award winner. I'm sending a bouquet of roses and raisins and everything else right now.
Please do. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it. Let's break the news real quick, Dan. As we tried to do it before and we didn't get to it, NBC News has learned that prosecutors have agreed to dismiss sexual assault charges against one Kobe Bryant. There's the news.
We're going to talk about that probably for the remainder of the show.
Well, as we get away from Ricky Williams for a few minutes. Eisenberg's got more with the update. 888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. It is the Dan LeBatard Show. We'll be back after this.
Dan LeBatard.
I am the smartest man alive.
Stugotz. Weekdays 4 to 7 on 790 ESPN Radio.
All right, welcome back. Dan LeBatard Show. I am Stugotz. We'll take you up till 7 o'clock this evening. Day 1, September 1, 2004. The launch date of ESPN Radio, 790. 888-790-ESPN. Again, 888-790-ESPN. We promise we will get out to the phone calls in just 1 second. But as we talked about and discussed before we went to break, and Mark Eisenberg brought it up in the update, NBC News has learned prosecutors have agreed to dismiss sexual assault charges against L.A. Lakers star Kobe Bryant.
Can I interrupt you for a second before you go down this Kobe path to get to a really important story that I'd like to get to the bottom of here?
Should we run the breaking news segment again?
Run the breaking news, the chaos disaster radio thing, the music again. We've got breaking news. There's a foul scent in this studio that I am convinced was left here by Joe Rose, and I would like somebody to do something about this immediately because it smells bad in here. It smells like a combination of locker room and vomit and like the worst Amsterdam bathroom that you've ever seen, and I'm blaming it on Joe Rose because there hasn't been anybody else in here, and he just gives off the foul scent of mediocrity and has-beenness.
I did tell you the scene with the big dog at about 6:59. The guy was stretching before his show. There was stretching involved. Okay.
Well, I will at some point during the course of this radio program, and I'm going to have to get some insurance or something.
You're not going to stretch.
I will go on a rant that makes me pull a groin muscle. I will promise you that.
I thought you were going to have one with Cody right there.
That's going to be fun. I'm going to have him on every week in some form or another. Get him in here because he's one of my best friends in the world, and I love talking to him.
Your thoughts on the Kobe case?
These guys, we never know who it is that they are, and they in his case, he betrayed us just as much as he betrayed his wife. And I don't care what a court of law says. I don't care what jurors say. I don't care that they had flimsy evidence and he said, she said. Kobe Bryant spent a lot of time selling us a bill of goods. He copycatted Michael Jordan, mannerisms, speech patterns. You could close your eyes, Kobe Bryant would be speaking, and you'd think that he was rehearsing like some sort of strange stalker in a room from 14 years old to sound like Michael Jordan. He sold us this image of himself, and it was a lie. Like, that's not who it is. The guy in the Sprite commercials and the guy in the McDonald's commercials, and maybe his wife forgives him. I don't know if the sporting public forgives him. I don't think commercial America is going to forgive him. And I just prefer, for me, I like the Terrell Owenses of the world who will say any number of things, but you know at least where it's coming from.
Sure.
Than someone like this who hides behind the Nike swoosh or hides behind his camouflage and sells you this image that he thinks you want, but it's a complete fraud.
I love the point you made that you don't know these guys unless you're in and you're inside. You don't know these guys, and what I find truly amazing is there's a guy who is in Iowa who has never been within 3,000 feet of Kobe Bryant, yet he will come out and say, oh, no, Kobe would never do anything like that. How do you know?
Well, and Kobe has done a great job of manicuring his image in that respect. I mean, he is completely corporate polished, and the master of that was Michael Jordan, who somehow went through decades of a career, somehow, without any of those strip club allegations or any of that stuff coming on and staining him. The guy was Teflon, and that's what America wants. America very badly wants to believe the illusion. They rather that you give them humility, even if it's false, than you giving them arrogance, even if it's truth. Like, they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear about how good you are. Just give us the aw shucks Boy Scout. We'll buy that every time.
888-790-ESPN. We try to get to these phone calls every segment. We do. We apologize. We feel bad. We really do.
You feel bad. I don't feel bad.
You don't feel bad, do you?
Although I am looking forward to taking callers and arguing and getting hostile. I am looking forward
Mikey T, Jimmy, and Steve have been on hold for nearly an hour, and you don't feel bad, Dan LeBatard.
No. Actually, a single tear is running down my cheek right now like the Indian in the litter commercials.
We got to take a quick time out. In the next hour, Chris Mortensen going to join us.
We're not going to get to the callers now either.
We can't get to him. I wasn't lying to you, Dan.
That's wrong, man. You're the one running the phone. You're running the show. You're here as a traffic cop.
You needed to break me up to tell me that the room smells terrible.
It does smell bad.
And we lost a minute right there.
Can somebody get Joe Rose a tent, like one of those termite tents, and just fill it with disinfectant and keep him in there for a couple of days?
Let's take a quick time out. Wilbon, Kornheiser, Mortensen all joining us in the 6 o'clock hour before we break. 790 ESPN Radio is up and running. What better way to celebrate our launch than by giving away free tickets? Listen all day, every day as we give away a pair of tickets for either the Marlins, Dolphins, Heat, Canes, or Panthers every hour of the first 790 hours we're on the air. We'll be back after this.
The Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz. Afternoons at 4 on 790 ESPN Radio.
A-Town.
All right, welcome back. It's 6:06. It is the Dan LeBatard Show, the debut of the Dan LeBatard Show. I am Stugotz, merely pimping around with Dan, his hoe, his limo driver.
Can't you put that music back up again? That's better. That's what I'm talking about. A little Little John, a little Usher. Put a little bit of that on. That's a little better than what you've been doing.
I am driving around the white Bronco right now for Mr. LeBatard. We'll take you up till 7 o'clock. We are going to be joined right now, as a matter of fact, by ESPN's NFL guru. That is right, the NFL guru of information, Dan's close personal friend. It is Mort on the line. How you doing, Chris?
All right, guys. How are you doing?
Chris, I'm excited about this, buddy. We're in high-level negotiations with you here to get you in here every Friday so that you can tell people what it is that they should be thinking about the upcoming games. Have we locked that down yet? But you'll do it for free, right? Just out of profound love for me?
That's correct.
That's
correct.
That's the way to
Just
talk.
Don't quote me.
Yeah, except you'll have your people contact me immediately after the show.
So I guess negotiations are over, according to that last exchange.
Let me ask you a couple of questions here, Mort, because I know people down here are going to want to talk to you about a variety of different things, but one of them that I would like to address with you, we were just talking about in the last hour. Who do you think is going to be the Dolphins quarterback?
Well, I thought it was going to be Jay Fiedler, but I guess I'm starting to hesitate on that call because they haven't named Fiedler, and I thought last week they wanted to see A.J. Feely do something extraordinary to change their mind. I don't know that he was extraordinary, so
I still think it's going to be Fiedler.
What quarterbacks have been extraordinary this preseason, Mort, where they just leap out at you and you say, this is somebody who's got, a decade in the league? Who has jumped out at you?
Well, we've already figured that out about Chad Pennington, but David Carr of the Houston Texans is a guy that I think is going to has a chance to be a perennial Pro Bowl type quarterback. Listen, arm-wise, athletically, and, of course, Andre Johnson, I think, is going to be a Pro Bowl type receiver, too. And I just think that he's the one guy that I think is jumping out to a lot of different people.
Am I out of my mind, Mort? Because I thought David Carr is the single best college quarterback I've ever seen. Fresno State was nothing before he got there. It's been nothing since. And every time I watched this guy in college, he was putting up 40s of, 44 completions and 48 attempts.
You know what? And he wasn't even in the Heisman race, of course, which is somebody else's fault. But, no, listen, this is a guy who has tremendous arm strength, very accurate, athletically much better than anybody realized, and just has a lot of things going. And a tough guy, obviously. He had to be tough playing for Houston that first year especially. So he's got it all. I really believe that. And so he's got a chance. He's got a chance right now, I think, to move into that elite class if he can show us this year that he's ready to take that next step up. Of course, the team has to take the next step up, too.
Let me take you back to the Dolphins for a second. Chris Mortensen, ESPN's football deity, joins us on 790 ESPN Radio. I want to know, as I look at what it is that the Dolphins gave up for A.J. Feely, and I see that Terrell Owens was had for a second-round pick, and I see that Corey Dillon was had for a second-round pick. Did the Dolphins give up too much for A.J. Feely?
Well, I thought they did. I thought it was too early and too much. And, in other words, but they had made the evaluation, but to give up a second-round pick and that early, that was before a lot of these other quarterbacks came out. I mean, to me, a Kerry Collins or even a Kurt Warner would have you. Those guys were going to bust loose. But obviously, Rick Spillman and Dave Wannstedt made an evaluation on the guy. I always felt like, hey, the guy does have a good arm. He did have some success in some starts that he had, but it still bothered me that when Donovan McNabb went down in that championship game against Carolina last year, that it was Coy Detmer who went out, not A.J. Feely.
Why was that, Mort?
Because they still felt Detmer had more command of the system, and so that was what I was told.
Mort, when you look at the Dolphins offseason, it's certainly been a crazy one, and none crazier than the departure of Ricky Williams from the NFL and this Miami Dolphin team. Do you subscribe to the theory that when things like this happen and a star player leaves, that the other guys will rally around and have a good season, or in your mind, do you see a long, dismal season for this Dolphin team?
Well, I mean, I don't see them going to the playoffs. I mean, I tell you what this. I am a big believer in letting teams play their games, but right now I don't see them as a playoff team. Dismal. I mean, I think that coaching staff's a pretty good coaching staff. I think they got some pretty good players on that team to be dismal.
That's the thing.
But the offense to me has a chance to be dismal if they don't start clicking by week 6.
The thing that I'm conflicted about, Mort, is that this team essentially went 11-5 with this same nucleus in Wannstedt's first year. It overachieved, and the defense was great. It was all the same defensive players, but Fiedler was playing at that time with Aronde Gadsden, with Hunter Goodwin, with Lamar Thomas. It was an anemic offense then, too, and they went 11-5 somehow.
Well, no, and that's what defense will get you. And remember, they're pretty extraordinary on special teams then, too, I think. And so, you get 2/3 of those things right, and the offense is good enough where it doesn't hurt you. You can win games in this league. I just think that I just don't see them as a playoff team right now. But like I said, I really do have a lot of respect for the staff. I mean, Dave wants to catch a lot of heat, but he has won a fair amount of games.
Well, this is what I don't get, and help me understand it a little bit better. Dave Wannstedt, in the regular season, over the last 4 years, his regular season record is better than Bill Belichick's regular season record. It is better than Bill Parcells' regular season record, the last 4 years on Parcells' resume. Yet locally, he is viewed as a clown buffoon in a lot of circles that needs to be yanked out of this job. Explain to me the national perception versus the local one.
Nobody ever sees Dave as a clown buffoon. I mean, I think there's been this. Once they got Ricky Williams, though, I think a different level of pressure came on Dave because the feeling was that was the missing player. That was the guy that was going to put you over the hump, and make you what you should be I think this is why Dave's under a little bit more scrutiny. He is not a buffoon. He's a good coach.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in some circles down here, Mort, he is, I would say, in South Florida sports, there is no more hated figure in South Florida. I don't think it's fair because he's an incredibly kind man and his record is good, but that's not the perception down here.
No, and what I like to say is, okay, let's, and I realize Jimmy Johnson won a game in the playoffs, right?
Yes.
Or the two. And how many playoff games does Shula win in his latter stretch?
I think Johnson won 2. I think he beat Buffalo and Seattle.
But Don Shula had Dan Marino. In other words, so I don't know what it is, but it's just never been what certainly Dolphin fans have wanted it to be. And so Davis seems to be taking the brunt of it more than anybody else.
Before we bounce around the league with you, Chris Mortensen joins us on 790 ESPN Radio. I'm Dan LeBatard. Before we bounce around to Deion Sanders and some of the other stuff going on in the league, tell me what you thought, your appraisal of the Dolphins giving up Adewale Ogunleye for Marty Booker. It seems from where I'm standing that they give up a first-tier pass rusher, very hard to get for a second-tier receiver.
Well, I think Booker's going to help him. First of all, I think he's a really good receiver. Second tier, if he's not top 10, he might be in the next between 10 and 20 in the league.
You put him that high. You put him that high.
Yeah, no, I do. But I also think that getting a third-round pick, what they do with the third-round pick probably will dictate as to what I really think about this trade. Now, when I've talked to other personnel guys and coaches about what you think about this trade, I'd say it was split 50-50, either that it was an even trade or that the Bears got the best of it. Some people don't think Ogunleye, remember what I say.
All right.
It's not Ye anymore.
Okay.
Is a premier pass rusher, that he was the beneficiary of a good defense and a defense that had excellent corners that held up the receivers just enough time with Jason Taylor on the other side. But we're going to find out. I know that much.
Well, they needed a wide receiver clearly when Boston went down. But fair to say, Mort, that if they had played their cards a little bit better here, got rid of Ogunleye a little bit earlier, they could have got more value for the guy?
I don't know about that. I don't think the people, I haven't said anybody, I haven't heard, nobody I talked to last week thought the guy was really a Pro Bowl type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he was in the Pro Bowl.
Team
Even
MVP.
though he was in the Pro Bowl, but there's a difference between having played in a Pro Bowl and being what you call a Pro Bowl caliber player. That's proven over a number of years.
Well, who was it? Was it?
I don't know. I think that he was somewhat available. I don't think he was totally off the market, and so it's possible they could have done a little bit better. But listen, Marty Booker's not a bad receiver, and like I said, this third-round pick to me is a very important pick. What they do with it will determine, to me, this trade.
You're putting him off a lot higher than I'd put him if you're putting him in the 10 to 20 category, though, Mark.
Right.
I think
probably that latter part of that, but I do put him in that category. He's a pretty good receiver.
Chris Mortensen joins us on 790 ESPN Radio. I'm Dan LeBatard. We will have Mort on here every Friday during the NFL season to take calls from you for an hour, but I get them all to myself at the moment, and I got to share them with lame Stugotz over here every once in a while. Sticks his beak in my conversation. Can you tell me a little bit, Mort, about what it is that you think Deion Sanders is doing here? Because I look at it and I see this is great for Deion Sanders. It's great for the Ravens. It's great for the league. It's great for us in the media. It's great for the fans. It's great for the people who sell furs and fedoras. I don't see anything bad about Deion Sanders returning.
You don't see anything bad about it?
Do you?
No, not at all. Hey, it's Deion Sanders. We're talking about one of the greatest athletes of our generation or of any generation. And, the guy, listen, if he can physically do it, and we're going to find out. And the other thing, and I think I've told you this before, Dan, if Ozzie Newsome says he wants him, it's good enough for me.
Right.
Nobody's doing a better job in personnel than Ozzie Newsome. And they're looking for a guy to come in and play their third corner. He fits with their defense. If he could end up being a great steal, and now who knows if he's a flop or he gets hurt, then but what did it cost him? $1 million?
This is an interesting argument we had on Pardon the Interruption yesterday, Mort. We were talking, and the question was, who has had the better career thus far, Deion Sanders or Ray Lewis? I argued on behalf of Ray Lewis because he led the league in tackles for a couple of years before he even became famous. He willed that team to a Super Bowl by himself. He was the Super Bowl MVP after willing that team to a Super Bowl on perhaps the greatest defense ever. What do you think?
I would say Deion Sanders, but I think you got a legitimate argument. I wouldn't say you're being ridiculous. That's for sure. Because I do believe Ray Lewis will very possibly surpass Dick Butkus as the greatest middle linebacker of all time.
Is he the best corner ever, Deion Sanders?
I think he is. You know, I think he is. I mean, you know, people will talk about, well, he wasn't a great tackle. Well, you know, he's not paid. Barry Sanders wasn't paid to block, and Deion Sanders wasn't paid to tackle.
One of the single most impressive achievements I've ever seen in sports, Mort, was watching the San Francisco-Chicago playoff game in Candlestick Park, and Dave Wanstead was coaching that Chicago team, an overachieving Chicago team. It was a muddy field, and for the entire game, half of the field was not thrown to. Steve Walsh wouldn't throw to the other side of the field because Deion Sanders was over there. Again, a muddy field. Deion Sanders played an entire playoff game. San Francisco won by 40-some-odd points. At the end of the game, Sanders' uniform wasn't even dirty, playing on a muddy field. And I asked him afterward, we're walking off the field, and I asked him, I said, have you ever played in a game that was more boring? And he laughed, and he said, it's called baseball.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing about Deion is that's the other thing he did. He allowed defensive coordinators who had him, and they can tell you this, to do things with their schemes that nobody else could do. When you eliminate one-third of the football field, or one-half, or whatever you want to call it, all of a sudden you can do those things in the running game. Deion wasn't a great tackler, but he was one of the most effective players ever against the running game because defensive coordinators were allowed to do some things against opposing offenses because they had Deion Sanders. And, oh, by the way, I don't know what the number is. How many touchdowns did this guy score?
20 for his career.
That's pretty amazing.
I know that off the top of my head. Didn't even look it up. I just know that about all statistics and all of sports.
Mort, he's lying to you. I was holding up a cue card showing it to him.
Okay. I thought it was 21. I'm sorry.
Hey, Mort, real quick, before we let you go, we go up to New York for just 1 second. Warner, Manning, the Giants go with Kurt Warner. You like the decision? You think Eli should have been the starter?
No, listen, I believe Tom Coughlin's probably a little bit better judge on that decision. Listen, I do think that Eli had the edge going into last Friday night, but the game was such a stinker that I think it helped persuade the people in the organization who really wanted Eli to sit out a few games. I got to tell you this, if Kurt Warner has turnovers that throws interceptions, that's going to be the opening to get Eli Manning on the field. But for now, I think it was probably the right decision, and Kurt did complete about 70% of his passes in preseason, by the way.
Chris, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We look forward to speaking to you next Friday and every Friday throughout the NFL season.
All right, you got it, guys.
Thanks a lot. Chris Mortensen joining us, ESPN NFL guru, the guru of information, joining us right here on the Dan LeBatard Show, 790 ESPN Radio. We'll take a quick timeout, come back. We got Wilbon and Kornheiser coming up in a couple of minutes. Eisenberg's got the update first. We're back into this.
Stugotz. Weekdays 4 to 7 on 790 ESPN Radio.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to the creatively named Dan LeBatard Show, and I just know that Wilbon and Kornheiser, I know that Diva Kornheiser there, he got put on hold for a couple of extra commercials, and he threw a temper tantrum. Wilbon, am I right or am I not right?
No, you're right. By the way, I'm liking this music. You got a little Outkast going. I like this.
He doesn't know what. Kornheiser wouldn't know Outkast if they came into the studio dressed up in costume.
No, he would. He has no idea. Let me tell you something, pal. When you do your first show, and you lean on your friends to be on, and you tell them you're going on at 6:24, you don't put them on at 6:29. That's lesson number one being a talk show host.
I know that your minutes are very valuable, Kornheiser, but I've been talking about you being on since 5 o'clock. Did something happen in sports that prevented you two clowns from coming on at the appointed time? Because I may have made you wait 5 minutes. You made me wait an hour and a half.
Actually, something did happen. Don't seem touche. What are you talking about? As long as you watch a lot of fencing during the Olympics, touche. There was this Kobe Bryant deal that happened, and it's interesting in this regard, because now that you're doing radio and you did TV yesterday, you'll understand the dilemma. On radio, you can speculate about anything. You can get on there and you can spin for 4 or 5 minutes and you say, I'm not a lawyer, we're getting this news, it seems to me that, I may not know the particulars of the case, but it occurs to me that. But on TV, you can't do that. On TV, you can't just stand there with your thumb up your nose and just start spouting if you're not a lawyer. You know, that's not what you did earlier today? No, it's not at all what I do. I know what I don't know, and the thing we were very careful about is when we heard about this, not to go on the air without something definitive and not to go on the air and make fools of ourselves by speculating on an issue. We're not trained lawyers, and we don't know anything about it.
Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon, the exceptional Washington Post columnists, join me on 790 ESPN Radio. So tell me what you do.
By the way, can I just interrupt to tell the people in Miami that with all the gas that we give you, we love you. And we would hug you if you were in our presence, and you do a great job as a writer and on TV.
Please
Radio, who knows?
Tony.
Writer and TV, you're great.
Actually, maybe I would get a word in if you were in our presence.
It's unbecoming, frankly, Tony. You're better as the miserable curmudgeon. You're better when you're spewing all sorts of venom at me, honestly.
But every time you see me, you say, would you hug me?
It's true.
Would you hug me?
It's true, but that's only because I'm actually, on top of everything else, I'm physically attracted to you, which is part of the problem.
Nah, you and thousands of others. I understand. It's been the curse of my life.
What did you guys talk about here about the Kobe Bryant case? What do you say?
We read copy from ABC News. I mean, Dan, there's still so much we don't know. I mean, this dismissal has been talked about, but the judge hasn't ruled on it. I know it's like a small little detail, except it actually hasn't been ruled on even now as we sit here an hour later and talk about it.
But
And
even
at
if
some point,
it
it'll
was,
have to happen.
Even if the judge had ruled on it, we're not lawyers. That's why all of the networks have lawyers on staff. That's why ESPN has Roger Cossack. That's why NBC News has what's that guy's name? I don't know. Floyd Abrams' son. You know, Dan Abrams. I mean, that's why somebody's got Captain Cryer, who used to be a judge, because when something like this happens that is totally involved in legality, the last thing you want to do is say, how do you think that's going to affect the Lakers, big boy?
Well, that's how careers were born out of O.J. Simpson, in that there are people who went on television and explained what the hell was going on, because sports writers don't know. I mean, reporters don't know, even legal reporters, unless they have law degrees. I'm going to call a friend of that who's a lawyer, who's also a reporter, among others, to try to figure out what the heck this is. But as of now, we don't know.
All right, then instead of that, let's talk about something you guys did argue about today. Give me the greatest, most hostile argument that presented itself on Pardon the Interruption today.
I don't think we argued. I mean, Wilbon is back for the first time in 8 weeks. In Greece, we didn't yell.
Will the Yankees hold off the Sox? Will the Cubs choke like dogs? I mean,
Kornheiser, I've been telling you.
For pro football, which we'll get into next week, it's baseball's just heating up. I don't think we had any definitive topics we could just go off on each other.
But Tony,
it's not like when we work with you and there's actual animosity. We really like each other.
I've been telling you for a week that the Yankees aren't that good. How'd you like that 22 spot the Indians put up on them last night?
No, that was pathetic from a Yankee standpoint.
It's one game.
But Wilbon believes it's one game.
It's one game. And if you're going to lose a game, that's not a crusher. That's not a heartbreaker. I mean, last I checked, the Yankees are still 3.5 up, and the Red Sox are close a lot of times in September when it begins. Let's see where they are when it ends.
Well, but the argument I've been making to Kornheiser is that the mathematicians who study this game say that both of these teams, the run differentials, all these theorems that they use, that both of these teams are essentially the same team, and the disparity, the 10-game disparity we've been seeing all year is a complete aberration.
Well, that's fine, but let's see what happens by October 1st. Let's see who's ahead.
Well, the 10-game disparity, Dan, is an aberration, but it doesn't need to be 10. If they win by the 3.5, they win by 1.
You win by 1. You can win by 1.
Here's what you don't want to wind up doing. You don't want to wind up making the case on behalf of the Red Sox and the Cubs. That would put you in a bad position. Anybody who wants to make the case for either one of those two choking dog teams, I wouldn't want to be in that position.
So
Can I ask you a question about Miami sports that Wilbon and I had a dispute about?
Sure.
Because Alonzo Mourning's in the news because he now is apparently going to try to play this year with the Nets. Did Miami cut him, or did he walk on Miami?
He walked away, and he was greedy about it. Like, I thought he owed Miami a little more after they gave him $100 million.
That was what I thought, but Wilbon said Alonzo cut him.
Now use the word cut. Did this end well between him and Riley? Did he feel that Riley had his back?
Yeah, it was okay. The two of them were okay about it. They were very good publicly. He wanted more money. He wanted the same offer from the Heat that the Nets were offering. It came down to money, and I got on him because I just didn't think after they had supported him and he had ruined a couple of seasons through no fault of his own, but he had gotten sick and they had paid him his $14, $15, $18 million a year, and then when he became a free agent, he just bolted for the largest pile of cash.
Position, but Wilbon said that Riley basically showed him the door and said, we don't want you.
I was under the impression that
very much the impression that he felt unwanted in Miami by the time he walked.
Well, because of the dollars, because the Heat were only offering $5 million for one season or $10 million, and the Nets were offering $22 million. But all of this gets clouded because Wilbon likes, he likes Mourning a lot.
Yes, I do. I don't make any bones about that.
So the whole argument gets clouded.
Well, I'm just looking at
like Riley, and I wonder if the argument could be clouded on that side, too.
What would have happened yesterday if you had been there, by the way? We did 5 good minutes with Pat Riley.
Great 5 minutes.
What would it have been if you had been on there?
He wouldn't have been a guest.
Why? Because everybody loves you.
Look, there's a lot of things I believe about Pat Riley. I believe that he has quit on teams, like he quit on the Knicks and he faxed his resignation, and I thought he behaved badly in a couple instances. I also, when I was asked to vote on the greatest coaches of the 20th century, I had Pat Riley 4th or 5th. It was like, for my list, it was like Lombardi, Auerbach, Wooden, and then I had Pat Riley. I had him incredibly high. I believe he's one of the great coaches in team sports history, but I believe he should get called on some stuff. I believe that it took him 6 years to admit he should have put Rolando Blackman in the game in Game 7 when the Knicks lost to Houston. And I was one of the people who was critical, and if you're critical of certain people like Pat Riley who are powerful and great at what they do, then you sort of get shut out. That's okay, I can live with that, but I was going to be critical, and I would write those pieces again.
Kornheiser and Wilbon join me from PTI on 790 ESPN Radio. So what you're saying there, Michael, is that basically you want sharper decision-making from your coach than to wait 6 years before making the proper decision on when to pull out John Stark.
Well, he talked about it. He talked to the New York Times several years later in a very eloquent piece because he's a very eloquent man. Look, I wish it was different because I enjoy listening to him, Dan. I could just listen to Pat Riley because he's a bright man. He's incredibly engaging. But, when you don't put a guy in, when your guy, John Starks, is 2 for 16 or whatever it is, and you're criticized for not giving another guy a look 30 seconds in a game, in Game 7 of the finals, then you have to live with that criticism, I think. You have to be better about dealing with that criticism. And I was critical of him for that and a few other things. I thought the way some other things were handled, the way he left New York, I thought that was done in poor taste. And I was one to say that, and I'm sticking by it.
Tony here, Wilbon's boy is Mourning. Your boy is Deion Sanders. How excited. I'm surprised you're not moving through the PTI the room there, moonwalking and doing Deion dances.
How's this radio show working out for you, by the way? Are you there alone? Do you have a guy with you? You got a side? I'm not answering that question about Deion because I've talked about that a million times. How's radio working out so far on day one? Are the people in Miami responding? Taking phone calls?
We've taken very few so far, but we will. I got a sidekick directing traffic for me here. His name is Stugotz. You want to talk to him?
No, but are you?
Blew me right off right there, Tony. Appreciate it.
You need to have some people in there that you can play to so you don't feel that it is completely on you all the time. Because your mouth's going to get dry after a while. You're going to feel all sorts of pressure. Have some people in there, play to a crowd, relax a little bit. Don't have to, write down the questions for people and be prepared for the interviews. But you don't want to be in a position where it's all on your back all the time,
How many callers should I take?
Well, I think you take callers when you want to take callers. I don't believe in those shows that are caller-driven because then you can't. You need to be able to control the calls and control the topics that the callers call in on. The most important thing to do in a radio show, two most important things, is think that it's entertainment and then actually listen to the guests you have or the people that you're talking to. Make it conversational, right, Wilbon? You make it conversational and entertaining, and people will stay with you for hours.
The old man has the formula, doesn't he, Dan?
Yeah, but he brings on his friends. That's what I need to do. See,
that's what you can do. That
plenty of friends down there.
You have friends?
I thought you just told me the other day, Kornheiser, that you don't have any friends, that Wilbon's your only friend.
I don't have any friends, but people will go on the radio with me because, they sort of enjoy that. But you have lots of friends. You're a big star in Miami. Come on now. You walk down the street, everybody knows you.
Yeah, well, they not as much as you, buddy. You still tell that story all these years later of you and I walking down South Beach, and all the old Jewish people know you, and nobody knows who I am.
That's my constituency, pal.
I know it's your constituency.
Those are my people. That's my demo.
Yeah,
but you can't mess with that.
Yeah, but you were also sucking up to Riley yesterday, enjoying him telling you how he likes you more than he likes me. You were.
No, look, Wilbon knows. I've thought that I think Riley is it for a very, very long time.
This must have been the greatest interview of 5 minutes of all time.
It was good. It was top 10. I mean, the best interview we've ever had on PTI, the best guest we've ever had is Michael Strahan. But Riley was in the top 10. I mean, that's the other thing, LeBatard. Are you going to actually have these dopey athletes on the air and talk to them and let them go on and on about how their life is ruined because they had no air conditioning when they were children?
Yes, I like the athlete. Unlike you, I don't think that'll slow down the program.
How soon are you going to have Shaquille O'Neal? That's what I want to know.
Did you see how good he looked, Michael, at the VMAs?
I was in Athens, and I saw it, and I thought they had doctored the photos. I thought there was some airbrushing. Shaq looked like he was 30 pounds lighter already.
He wants him down to 315. Guys, I got to get out of here, but I love you.
You're going to a break. Good luck with your show.
All right, buddy. You guys are going to be regulars. I know you are, right?
Not a chance unless you're paying.
All right, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser for Pardon the Interruption. I am Dan LeBatard. Here's a SportsCenter update.
The Dan LeBatard Show with Stugotz.
Let's see who gets their ass kicked.
On 790 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back, 648. We're wrapping it up. Day number 1, September 1st, 2004. Debut of 790 ESPN Radio and the Dan LeBatard Show. How about your boy Kornheiser? Just absolutely no desire to say a word to Stugotz.
That's what I love about him. He always tells you the truth, no matter what the situation is. What kind of music are we playing here?
I don't know. I don't know. Are you upset with it?
We got canned flock of seagulls working here. Like, this is bad canned high out. Look, can we get this part of the show right? 2 things, 2 requests, first day, 2 memorable things. And I don't want to throw a diva rant here. Just 2 things.
But you are.
Let's get the smell out of the room first. Let's just disinfect the Joe Rose scent out of the room. And get me the kind of music that I like, please. That's it. That's all I want. I don't even care if you get me any guests, if you get me any callers. Just get me those.
Nothing else matters as long as the smell is gone from this room. And why don't you tell them the music that you like, Dan?
Just a little incense, and I said already, I want the VMAs.
You're not trying to do a diva rant, yet you're diva ranting right now.
I know, I'm sorry.
You okay?
No, I'm very fragile right now.
Last segment was brilliant, by the way.
Oh, they're the
brilliant.
Best. Those guys are the greatest. We'll see if they'll come on every once in a while. I am going to sap your bank account, Joel, trying to get people on here who are going to make good radio, because I know Martin's going to make good radio, and those two can talk to anybody for 15 minutes and make it entertaining.
You guys are brilliant. 888-790-ESPN, Dan. We haven't taken a call in about 2.5 hours, and these same guys have been hanging on for about 2.5 hours.
We need to start doing some call taking. I'm sorry about that, by the way. Genuinely sorry. Go ahead.
Let's go out to Ken, who is on the mobile phone. What's going on, Ken?
Hello?
Yes?
Oh, it's Jimmy.
Okay, Jimmy, how you doing?
Stugotz, how are you, buddy?
Doing good, Jimmy.
Good to have you back on the air. Do you realize to put in perspective how long it's been since we've talked, the last time I talked to you, the Mets were a game out of first place.
Yes, they were.
That's how long it's been.
Now they're 15 or something like that out of first place.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I'm a long-time holder, short-time listener.
There you go.
Well, Dan and I both appreciate it.
Stugotz, you really hit the big time. I remember the first time I called you on 940.
Yeah, I've hit it
I actually
big.
dialed the wrong number, and you guys just put me on the air.
Yeah, that was the case. This guy actually did dial the wrong number, Dan.
Hold on a minute.
Dan, you bring Wilbon and Kornheiser, I bring Jimmy.
Pardon my ego and pardon my jealousy, okay? But let's not turn this into the Stugotz reunion, high school reunion hour, all right? If you guys want to exchange pleasantries, how about you go off into the other studio
will you
and
stop
do kissy face? How about not slowing down my shows and my listeners with all your hugging and embracing?
Wait till you hear the next call. You ready for this one?
That's it? That's what that guy called
You bring the Wilbons and the Kornheisers, I bring the Jimmys and the Mikey T's on a mobile phone, LeBatard. What's the matter with you?
What are you bringing to this program? You're poisoning the entire landscape here.
I am the hoe of this program. You're pool boy. I'm cleaning your...
Well, you're not. You're bringing algae to my pool. I need my pool to be a little cleaner than it is right now. I'm telling you, please clean my pool. And what do you say? Here's Mikey T on a mobile. That's what you bring to my pool.
I would like a fresca, and yes, I will mow your lawn. Let's go out to Mikey T on the mobile phone. What's going on?
Before I get to the Mets and Jets, I want to talk to the guy who's waiting for Bob Ryan's seat over there. Mr. LeBatard, that article we wrote the other day, a month back, about the Marlins, you told me it was about a numbers thing. You were talking about the young GMs, how today you were talking a little bit about that.
Yes.
These young GMs know nothing about only about books. They know nothing about baseball. I mean, that's the bottom line. You want to take a Luduka who's got a heart of a Mattingly and out there and plays like a Mattingly out there, gives you singles and doubles. I mean, you need a retrack on that, baby. Couple of other things.
Hold on. Let me ask you real quick. How do you measure Hart? Go ahead and measure that one for me empirically. Like, all I know is the Dodgers, with their math whiz, are in first place by 5 games.
From one nippy to the other nippy is Big Hart. That's Big Hart.
But I want the measurement on Hart. Like, the Marlins didn't win the World Series because of Hart last year. They won because Josh Beckett all of a sudden had the best month of his life.
But can we not put Paul LaDuca in the same class as Don Mattingly, please? I don't care if we're talking about Hart. I don't care if we're talking. I don't care what part of the body it is, what organ it is. He is not Don Mattingly.
He's not Don Mattingly, but he's a similar cast out of that mold. I mean, come on, guys. Guy's a double hitter, a single hitter. He's a clutch hitter. I mean, what else do you want from the guy?
Listen, I think it was a good trade, but we're talking about Donnie baseball here.
Stu, really quick. Last time I talked to you with the Mets, it was over after that Franco game. He gave up that home run to Abreu. It was done. Stu, I've seen enough of Duquette. I've seen enough of Hal. It's got to go, Stu. Real quick on my Jets, Stu. Looking real nice early. I know it's early, but if Pennington stays healthy, look out. And we don't want to hear Cote crying about the 6-10 Dolphins this year. I'm out, baby.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the call. How about the Mets? I think 6 or 7 out at the time, trading away their best pitching prospect for Victor Sombrano. Good move.
Yeah, that's not very strong there. But the Mets, I'm tired of the Mets. The Mets have been, Cliff Floyd sounds like he's a little bit tired of the Mets as well.
Yes.
He's going back into the papers. Cliff Floyd, there are certain characters in baseball that I always enjoy. Cliff Floyd, based on the reporter asking the question, you can basically get Cliff Floyd to say just about anything you want if you're a reporter.
And you've tried to push those buttons before, haven't you?
Sure, just put him on my knee and move the ventriloquist, put my hand in his back and started to get him to talk.
Dan, first show in the books. Feeling good about it? You okay? You were standing for the first hour and a half, and you have sat for the last hour and a half. Which way do you like it better, Dan? Which was the better option for you?
I'm tired. I'm like a fat man at the end of the marathon, wheezing and out of breath, crossing the finish line, looking for a smorgasbord.